Now at 6, we continue to track the storm impact in western Alaska. You're looking at the rough water conditions and flooding in Kivalina and Kotzebue.
You can see the water here seemingly taking over roads and even some businesses. There's some homes being affected and other businesses as well.
And tonight we continue our team coverage to inform you and keep you and your family safe.
We've got our Joe Allgood here with us. He's going to show us more of that video and speak. He talked to the people affected as well.
But we start off with Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry tracking not only what's still left of the storm, but now a typhoon that is headed straight for Alaska.
Yeah, Rebecca and Augusta, we are seeing the impacts of the current storm finally starting to taper off. Still some strong winds on the northern Arctic coast, and we do still have flood warnings in effect for those areas. We can see those winds far less significant than they were early this morning. We had a peak wind gust in Dead Horse this morning of 75 miles per hour, now dropping to 25, so much improvement there. We do still have flood warnings in effect for the northwest Arctic coast, and we're still hearing these storm reports coming in. Again, as new damage is being found from that storm. But we already have new flood watches and high wind watches in effect for the next storm, and that is going to get here this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. The Kuskokwim Delta through Norton Sound, all the way north of the Bering Strait, needs to be prepared for another round of extreme wind and flooding, this time likely even more severe than what we just experienced. So again, flood watches and wind watches in effect for that western coastline. That next storm, it is a typhoon. Right now, sustained winds of 80 miles per hour to the east of Japan. Halong is going to track pretty much directly east tonight, still as what would be equivalent of a Category 1 hurricane tomorrow afternoon. From there, it's going to take a sharp turn, though, to the north, only weakening slightly, arriving in the Aleutians Saturday morning. And on this map, yellow shows winds over 40 miles per hour, but red shows those winds over 70 miles per hour. And again, that storm continuing to track into the Bering Sea Saturday afternoon and pushing through Norton Sound and into the Bering Strait as we head through the day on Sunday. And you can see those winds, again, likely over 60 miles per hour for much of Norton Sound as we head into Sunday afternoon. And then we'll likely see flooding from there. Now, we want to get to Joe Allgood, who has been hearing from those across western Alaska and learning more about the damage there. Joe.
Melissa, while these Alaskans are just beginning to recover and start the process of assessing the damage, they're also already now preparing for that next storm. The state's disaster declaration will hopefully aid in that process. Most importantly, there have been no officially reported injuries at last check, but some property damage has been identified in the northwest Arctic borough. To help recover, the state's public assistance program has been opened up, designed to help communities restore critical infrastructure damaged by disaster. It also covers the costs of emergency response and protective measures for eligible applicants. Talking to residents from Kotzebue, they say after last year's storms, preparation was crucial during this storm.
It was definitely different from last year when we were experiencing it coming up pretty quick. It was very scary because we did not know how bad it was going to get. But this year, I actually wasn't as worried. Because I was actually just expecting it to kind of get up to my porch level. So no, I just honestly, we were prepared. We had everything, ready. I had an evacuation plan if that was needed. But I wasn't that worried like I was last year.
With the next storm on the way, the Alaska National Guard and State Defense Force says they'll deploy tomorrow to help with recovery and preparation. More information, including shelter locations, can be found on our website, and I'll provide any and all updates tonight on the Late Edition. Back to you guys.
A Wasilla man accused in the connection of a teenage girl's death has pleaded guilty in federal court to distributing a deadly synthetic opioid.
Prosecutors say Sean Mobley admitted to giving carfentanil to 16-year-old Elena Thomas in November. That drug is said to be 100 times stronger than fentanyl and 10,000 times more potent than morphine.
Now, court documents say that after Thomas overdosed and lost consciousness, Mobley believed she had died and dumped her body near a power line trail in Wasilla. Troopers found her body the next morning.
Mobley faces a minimum of 20 years in prison and up to life when he's sentenced in January. He also faces state charges, including second-degree murder. A change of plea and sentencing hearing for that case also scheduled for January.
Palmer residents took to the polls this week to vote on a new mayor and council members in addition to a new ballot measure.
This week's election comes 1 year after a controversial resignation by the city manager. We've got our investigative team's Johnson Kuhn now with that story.
That's right. Rebecca Augusta, while preliminary results have already started posting online, council won't certify those results until Monday. Now, that new ballot measure you mentioned, Proposition 1, that looks to eliminate a long-standing rule that requires the city manager to live within 5 miles of town. But currently, the current city manager is, we're told, still residing in Anchorage at the moment.
But if this ballot measure passes, then she won't have to relocate?
That's correct, yeah. So it's written in her contract that she has until the end of this month to find closer living arrangements. But with the proposition currently showing signs of passing, it's likely that that's not going to be an issue moving forward.
And we remember how this time last year, the town of Palmer was dealing with the untimely resignation of the former city manager, Stephen Jelly. Were they able to tell you if this proposition had anything to do with his departure or if any policy changes have been made as a result?
They were, and they said no, that this ballot measure has nothing to do with the former city manager's departure. And it also had nothing to do with addressing the current city manager's living situation. I was told that
time-honored tradition.
We were told that if we didn't go out.
But no policy changes have been made in the wake of Jelly leaving his position.
Johnson Kuhn, thank you so much for that report. And of course, you can catch the rest of the story tonight on the Late Edition and our website. Thank you so much, Johnson.
Right, Johnson. Developing this evening, Alaska's news source political reporter Will Courtney has learned, despite the government shutdown, thousands of Alaskans will continue getting their food assistance for now.
And Senator Lisa Murkowski's office confirmed the USDA allocated $300 million today for Alaska's WIC program. Now, that provides food vouchers for pregnant women and families with young children. Senator's office says that funding should last through October. If more money is needed, Governor Dunleavy's spokesperson says he plans to use state funds. Healthcare leaders say the program is essential.
Very tight. We're in an economy right now that is, between paying for rent or paying for a mortgage, paying for your bills, there's not a lot left over, for those essential items like, fruits and vegetables and, those good meats and things that we have to keep us going. And so WIC is a program that kind of steps in and helps with those things.
We know that our state can't afford any cuts to WIC, but we also can't afford any gaps in time with WIC. We know that starts and stops in any nutrition assistance programs lead to client attrition or client drop-off.
WIC is the second federal program in Alaska to get emergency funding this week. That part of the story continues live right now on our website or mobile app.
And from substantial economic settlements to a Pacific green sea turtle that was way out of place this week in Alaska history was another interesting one.
Our Justin Matson and John Thompson take you through this week in Alaska history. Check it out on our free streaming platforms on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.